John the Morgile here, coming to you live from Honia Path, South Kakalaka. Um, it is cold up in here, let me tell you. Well, it's kind of warm in here, but it's cold out there. We got hit with a hell of a blizzard, let me tell you. And so I drove home from the hospital. I got back about an hour ago, and I took it 30 mile an hour the whole way home because the roads are just absolutely treacherous. Cars flipping over on the highway and everything, man. People don't know how to drive on the ice, I guess. You really got to slow it down, dude, on that ice. You know what I mean, man? Anyway, I hope y'all are doing well this evening. This is going to be probably a shorter one because it is getting kind of late here and I am a bit whooped. But I did want to pop in and check in with you guys and do a periodical real Earth affirmation with you. Again, I don't want to go so far as to call the thing a daily, but I don't know if I can commit to daily, but we'll damn sure do periodical now, won't we? All right. So I see 6 people have now joined. If you don't mind, let's see some thumbs up in this thing, and we're going to get started here in just a minute. I'm not going to do anything too fancy. What's up, Origins? Not going to do anything too fancy this evening. We're just going to go over some curvature stuff. We're going to look at Zetetic a bit. We'll quote exactly how, we've arrived at the curvature formula. And I just had a couple things I wanted to mention about that. So we will definitely get into that in a minute. I guess first off, prayers up to everybody out there in SoCal that a lot of people have lost everything. And, I know dealing with FEMA is not the best experience. I'm still dealing with FEMA from Hurricane Helene, and they still have not reimbursed me any of the money I spent on hotels. They are not going to put me up in a hotel, even though they said they were going to. At least, so I could go get a hot shower, because we still don't have hot running water here. And so I can't remember the last time I had a hot shower, dude. But so like when Mina went to the hospital last night again, I called FEMA, just following up on, all this piles of money I'm supposed to get back from them and still haven't gotten. But I asked them, can I still just go get a hotel and y'all will pay for it? And they said, sure, go get you a hotel. So I drove, I went to the hospital, and on the way I stopped at the Hotel La Quinta in Greenville. And I sat up there for about 5 hours sitting on hold with FEMA for absolutely nothing. It was just a big waste of time. And I wasted all my talk minutes on my phone too. I have an old prepaid fucking track phone that I am sort of grandfathered into a pretty sweet deal. And so, I have a prepaid phone, whatever. But so I burned up all my minutes and wasted all my time dealing with FEMA for nothing, and still ain't had a hot shower. So they did move her to a room finally, and there's a shower at the hospital. So I think what I'm going to do is tomorrow, once the roads thaw a little bit, is I'm going to go back up to the hospital and try to get me a hot shower because I am gross, dude, let me tell you. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, enough about how gross I am. Let's talk about the curvature formula because that's what we're going to do today. So, and the reason I wanted to talk about this one is because I've gotten a lot of comments that go like this. So they say that because the 8 inches per mile squared curvature formula, right, to project the expected amount of curvature on the sphere Earth over a given distance. So that's describing like a parabola, or whatever, right? Not an actual curve, not a spherical curve, right? And so the argument from the globetards is that the 8 inches per mile squared, uh, you know, equation is thus null and void because of a semantical error in the definitions of what is described mathematically therein. So, and what I mean by that, excuse me, I'm getting over a bit of a bug here, but what I mean by that is that, so yeah, 8 inches per mile squared is an expression that will, so basically it is to determine the tangent from the true level, right? So assuming that the Earth is a ball, the true level would be the curvature of the Earth, right? And then the tangent would be the apparent level or your line of sight, right? And so describing that tangent compared to the true level, the 8 inches per mile squared equation works perfectly adequately up to like 1,000 miles and even more. And yeah, after that point, like it does start to break down a little bit because yes, it is describing a parabola, but you know, for our purposes that we're ever going to use it for, I mean, I think as long as it can get up to like 500 miles, I think we're good, right? Anything beyond 500 miles, maybe even 1,000 miles, right? You're just never going to have any sort of a observation that's that far, right? You're never going to observe 2,000 miles away, right? I mean, and maybe with a real good set of binoculars or something, I don't know. But for the purposes that we're using it for, and again, that is to describe the tangent compared to the true level, assuming a spherical Earth, it's perfectly adequate. Regardless of the semantical arguments, you know, whether it's describing a parabola or a curve or whatever, it's irrelevant because you can go into like 3D Studio Max or whatever, or any kind of like a AutoCAD software, and you can compare this, you know, tangent line to the true level thing using 3D modeling software. And the 8 inches per mile squared equation, it works perfectly well up to hundreds and hundreds of miles, right? And again, that's all we really need it for. So like these globetard arguments that it's, you know, that the equation's no good, and therefore like all of the flat earth arguments are null and void. First of all, it does go to show you that these people have never actually went and applied the curvature formula to reality or checked it against like AutoCAD to see if it was accurate. They're just going with the semantical argument and delving no deeper. And, you know, isn't that just such a pattern when it comes to the globers, right? Just totally ignore the meat and the germane shit about what we're talking. Just ignore all that. And then just cherry pick a semantical argument that you can run with. And you know, the thing is, that actually works most of the time. Because see, most people already think that flurfers are fucking retarded anyway, right? So it doesn't take much to, you know, to keep that momentum going for the globetards. You know what I mean? But what I wanted to do real quick is just, I'm going to just read a bit from Zetetic Astronomy from, you know, this was originally penned in the 1860s. And this is definitely where we get the, like if it wasn't for Robotham, if it wasn't for Zetetic Astronomy and that whole Zetetic movement back then, we absolutely, well, I would say almost certainly would not have the sort of flat earth momentum that we have today. Like there's just no way in hell without Rowbotham's work, like this whole truth movement never would have gotten off the ground. So in that respect, it's a very important book. Now, it doesn't mean that I necessarily agree with every jot and tittle of the entire book. But I will, you know, I will say that Rowbotham did an excellent job with this book proving that the spinning ball Earth is a load of nonsense, and also demonstrating that the flat and motionless Earth is quite obvious once you get it, right? Once you recognize that it is not a sin to consider the Earth as anything other than a spinning sphere, then it does become very obvious, at least in my opinion. So if you see the thumbnail of this video that you're watching, there's a diagram. It's just a black and white diagram, like towards the right hand side of the screen. That's what we're going to be referencing for this little excerpt from Zetetic Astronomy. But this is from page 8, and I will put I'll put a link for this in the description too, if I can possibly remember. Let me just do it now. And of course, the entirety of Zetetic Astronomy is on my channel as a playlist. So whenever this gets done processing in a couple days, I'll try to remember to go back and put a card for the audiobook playlist on here too. But don't confuse Zetetic Astronomy with Zetetic Cosmogony. I've got them both audiobooks. Zetetic Cosmogony is a newer one. It's a great book. But it's not this one. Zetetic Astronomy was earlier, but Zetetic Cosmogony was a great book, and I would recommend, both of these for sure. Okay, so anyway, but just quoting from Zetetic, right. Okay, so here we go. So this is starting on page 7, Zetetic Astronomy. So if the Earth is a globe and 25,000 miles in circumference, the surface of all standing water must have a certain degree of convexity. Every part must be an arc of a circle, curvating from the summit at the rate of 8 inches per mile, multiplied by the square of the distance. That this may be sufficiently understood, the following quotation is given from the Encyclopedia Britannica, Art Leveling. Quote, if a line which crosses the plumb line, and again, reference that diagram on the thumbnail. If a line which crosses the plumb line at right angles be continued for any considerable length, it will rise above the Earth's surface, the Earth being globular, and this rising will be as the square of the distance to which the said right line is produced. That is to say, it is raised 8 inches very nearly above the Earth's surface at 1 mile's distance, 4 times as much, or 32 inches, at the distance of 2 miles, 9 times as much, or 72 inches, at the distance of 3 miles. This would be owing to the globular figure of the Earth. And this rising is the difference between the true and apparent levels. The curve of the Earth being the true level, and the tangent to it the apparent level. So soon does the difference betwixt the true and apparent levels become perceptible, that it is necessary to make an allowance for it if the distance betwixt the two stations exceeds 2 chains. I never did understand what they mean by 2 chains, but I guess it has something to do with nautical mileage measuring. I don't know, man. What does he mean by 2 chains? And I know we're not talking about 2 Chainz the rapper, right? Because I don't think 2 Chainz the rapper was around back then, duder. Okay. So again, that's so funny though, ain't it? Again, so referencing the diagram on the thumbnail there. So let BD be a small portion of the Earth's circumference, whose center of curvature is A, and consequently all the points of this arc will be on a level, a curve level, no less, right? So we're going to just go ahead and give them the curve level for argument's sake. But a tangent BC meeting the vertical line AD in C will be the apparent, shit, I just skipped, will be the apparent level at the point B. And therefore, DC is the difference between the apparent and the true level at the point B. The distance CD must be deducted from the observed height to have the true difference of level, or the differences between the distances of 2 points from the surface of the Earth or from the center of curvature, alpha. Excuse me. Phew, I got the flu bug. That thing hit me bad, y'all. I mean, luckily I'm getting over it, but whew, I'm glad I've got that thing I can't mention on YouTube or they'll ban my channel permanently. But we shall see afterwards how this correction may be avoided. So again, they're talking about the distance CD must be deducted from the observed height to have the true difference of level, or the differences between the distances of the 2 points from the surface of the Earth or from the center of curvature, alpha, right? But we shall afterwards see how this correction may be avoided altogether in certain cases. To find an expression for CD, we have Euclid, third book, 36 proposition, which proves that BC squared equals CD times 2AD times CD. But since in all cases of leveling, CD is exceedingly small compared with 2AD, we may safely neglect CD squared, and then BC squared equals 2AD times CD, or CD equals BC squared over 2AD. Hence, the depression of the true level is equal to the square of the distance divided by twice the radius of the curvature of the Earth. Right. So we got to wait. We're almost done with how they arrived at the 8 inches per mile squared thing, right? So okay. So for example, taking a distance of 4 miles, the square of 4 is 16. And putting down twice the radius of the Earth's curvature, as in round figures, about 8,000 miles, we make the depression on 4 miles equals 16 over 8,000 of a mile equals 16 times 1760 divided by 8,000 yards equals 176 over 50 yards equals 528 over 50 feet, or rather better than 10.5 feet. Or if we take the mean radius of the Earth as the mean radius of its curvature, and consequently 2AD equals 7912 miles, then 5280 feet being 1 mile, we shall have CD, the depression in inches, equals 5280 times 12 times BC squared over 7912 equals 8008 BC squared inches. So, okay, so the preceding remarks suppose the visual ray, CB, to be a straight line, whereas on account of the unequal densities of the air at different distances from the Earth, the rays of light are incurvated by refraction. Okay. I just want to mention that as far as I know, this is the first edition of Zetetic Astronomy, and he's definitely mentioning refraction right there on the 10th page, right? So to all those people that argue that Robotham didn't even figure refraction, it's bullshit. I mean, unless this is not actually the first edition, which maybe that's the case, but yeah, he was definitely aware of atmospheric refraction, but he actually mentioned it again. So back to it. The effect of this is to lessen the difference between the true and apparent levels, but in such an extremely variable and uncertain manner that if any constant or fixed allowance is made for it in formula or in tables, so like standard refraction, it will often lead to a greater error than what it was intended to obviate. For though the refraction may, at a mean, compensate for about 1/7 of the curvature of the Earth, it sometimes exceeds 1/5, and at other times does not even amount to 1/15. We have therefore made no allowance for refraction in the foregone formula. So basically what he's saying there is that, yes, they understand that refraction is a thing, but it's a variable. And so you can't make any sort of standard allowance for refraction because you're going to end up skewing the numbers worse than you were trying to correct for the refraction, right? Usually, like maybe, even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? So like maybe sometimes standard refraction will, will benefit your equation, right? But usually you're going to need to get the refraction index for that specific date, time, location, depending on the conditions, right? Because refraction is a variable depending on just so many things, that temperature gradients, temperature variance, atmospheric pressure, particulates, just everything. Like it all affects the refraction. So, the whole like the whole Mick West frickin' standard refraction is just such a stupid globetard thing to do. I'm sorry to say. No offense to the globetards who may be watching right now. Love you guys too. I mean, gotta love the globetards. Okay, and like I'm just messing, but like we were all there once. I don't have anything against people who like are new to this topic and still believe the Earth's a globe. I get it, but at the same time, hopefully you'll come around sooner or later. Okay, so back to the quote. If the Earth is a globe, there cannot be a question that, however irregular the land may be in form, the water must have a convex surface. And as the difference between the true and apparent level, or the degree of curvature, would be 8 inches in 1 mile, and in every succeeding mile, 8 inches multiplied by the square of the distance, there can be no difficulty in detecting either its actual existence or proportion. Experiments made upon the sea have been objected to on account of its constantly changing altitude and the existence of banks and channels, which produce a crowding of the waters or currents and other irregularities. So standing water has therefore been selected, and many important experiments were made, the most simple of which was the Bedford level, which is sort of like the famous experiment that came from Zetetic Astronomy. So that's pretty much all I wanted to excerpt from the book, so I can relax a bit. Origins of beingness, attainment. The 5 senses deceive all. Well, I don't know. I mean, they can be, I guess, but I tend to trust our senses, man. I mean, sure, your senses can be deceived or tricked or whatever, but as long as we take that into consideration, I think we're good, right? I don't know. But so, that excerpt from Zetetic, man, like it's pretty cut and dry. Like, again, it's not intended to, describe the curvature of the Earth to infinity. It's just intended to, again, to differentiate between the true level and the tangent to that, which would be the apparent level. And for that effect, to that end, it's, it does perfectly fine. And I would challenge any globe Earth believer that feels like that equation is inadequate, then use, if you've got something better, then use that. But you still got to go and measure the Earth for curvature, dude. You can't just, you can't just debunk flat earthers' arguments by using some non sequitur semantical argument and then just ignore the meat, the meat of what we're saying. I mean, you've still got to use some sort of a methodology to check the Earth for curvature in order to have any sort of standing in this argument, right? Because I'll go back to the analogy of the horse's teeth, right? So let's say we're going to debate how many teeth a horse has, right? So like, personally, even to this day, even though I've mentioned this analogy a bunch of times, I still don't know how many teeth a horse has, really. I mean, I could probably guess and I could probably debate somebody about it, but, until we actually go and count the damn horse's teeth, we could debate it all day and get absolutely nowhere, right? Like, does anybody actually believe that if I was to go and debate somebody right now about how many teeth a horse has, but neither one of us had ever went and counted the teeth of the horse, and we just debate for say 2 straight hours about it. Like, do you think we're going to get any closer to the truth about how many damn teeth that horse has? Or wouldn't, like, instead of a debate, wouldn't it be better to just go and count the damn horse's teeth? And like debating it is not going to accomplish anything at all, right? I mean, we're talking about objective reality, okay? And so when we go around debating people about objective reality, I mean, sure, you can have, subjective interpretations of the same experience, but it's never going to get you closer to the truth. It's never going to get you closer to an accurate number of how many damn teeth a horse has, right? And so, furthermore, when you go debating a child about Santa Claus, right? A child who still believes in Santa Claus, you're not going to get any closer to the truth about Santa Claus or the elves or, the reindeer or none of that by debating a believer in Santa Claus. Okay. And furthermore, nobody's ever going to produce some smoking gun scientifical piece of evidence that Santa Claus doesn't exist, right? And in fact, in debating the little child about Santa Claus, I would argue that you are giving too much energy and credibility to the Santa phenom to begin with, right? Like, I don't think we should be wasting our time and energy debating children about the existence of Santa Claus. And just like debating the number of teeth that a horse has is never going to get you closer to the truth about the number of teeth that a horse has, so too, debating globetards about the curvature of the earth will never get you closer to the truth about the curvature of the earth. The only thing that's going to get you closer to the truth about the curvature of the earth is to count the damn horse's teeth, so to speak, right? So, like, you're just going to have to go, if you don't want to use the 8 inches per mile squared formula, dude, then you're going to have to figure out something else. I mean, I'm sure you can use whatever you want. You can use AutoCAD and just go with that and just figure out the number of miles you're trying to test for curvature and then compare it with AutoCAD. But you got to do something. You can't just debunk Flurfer's arguments by semantics and then not go measure the earth for curvature, right? So then I think that covered that's what I wanted to say in this video, man. That really definitely covers it. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and I will try to keep posting as much as I can. It's been a rough time, y'all, man. We are still struggling. I mean, I think we're gonna be okay, but it's whew, man, I am tired, y'all. I'm whooped. So I'm going to get some sleep, but I will definitely keep in touch with y'all, keep you posted. Thank y'all so much for sitting with me, and y'all be good. Stay blessed. Prayers up to the people in SoCal that are suffering. Hopefully y'all get some peace and resolution. Oh, thanks, Origins. I appreciate you, love. God bless you, and I will see y'all very soon. Y'all be good. Bye.